Welcome to Walk's Wednesday Words. For 2 weeks, we've been looking at the book Presbyterians, A Spiritual Journey by Dirk Warengo. And this started really the first week when I did not know how to pronounce his last name. So I found Dirk on Facebook and messaged him, and he gave me a phonetic pronunciation. And I said, "Can I interview you? Can I talk to you for my Wednesday Words video cast?" And he said sure. And we set up a time, and to keep in the format of these Wednesday Words that are about 10 minutes or less, I'm going to do 2 interviews this week and next week. And I'm so new at this, and if I'd known I was going to be even shooting this way, I probably would not have worn a white shirt on a white background. But I'm learning, and have my St. Louis Cardinals mask as my cravat here around my neck. So let's listen to the first of my conversations with Dirk. Well, what a fascinating book. If you don't mind, tell me, how did you conceive of this idea for this Presbyterian spiritual journey?
So the way I got involved with it was that I had not been in a church for 20 years and had been very successful in my in a marketing communications business where I was working with a lot of big corporations, and I had come back to the church kind of because my mother kind of made me, even at that age, and so I found myself back and kind of discovering the tradition that had been kind of boring to me when I was growing up, and got very much involved. And because being in marketing communication, I kept looking at the issue that the church was facing and saying, I wonder if, here's over 10,000 congregations. I wonder if any of them know what anybody else does. And so that was kind of the early premise. The next premise was really, what does that say about faith? In other words, how might different people voice their faith differently from others? And so at the time, John Mulder was president of Louisville Seminary, which, of course, right there at the near the denominational headquarters. So John had handed me early on in discussion. It was funny because one of the members of the First Presbyterian Church in Grand Haven, Michigan, where I was a member, is Barry Johnson, who was a longtime member of the board of directors of Louisville Seminary.
Yes.
So my connection to John started through Barry, because Barry grew up next door to me. And so I called her up and I said, how do I get something done in the church? Which is really a good question. And she said, you need to talk to John Mulder. So John and I started a friendship by way of email first, which was relatively new in email. John and I struck up a conversation that went on for a while. He asked me to come down to Louisville, which I did, and we had a nice meeting. He then brought in members of the Presbyterian Publishing and brought them the conversation, and also the communications people from the denomination. So we had a good decision-making type group, and they kind of liked the concept, which was, and so what I said was, pay me $50 a day, and at the time, and I'll just travel across the country for a year and a half to 2 years and write a book.
Wow.
The learning was an incredible thing, because you come at perspective on life and on our beliefs and on our values, a lot is determined by where we live.
Hmm.
And so if you're living in Midtown Manhattan, you have no idea what's going on in Ocala, and vice versa. And so with such a distinct difference from church to church to church, getting people to kind of see that they're a big part of a bigger body was, I thought, important.
Interesting. So the book
And,
is titled Spiritual Journey. What was it a spiritual journey for you?
It was a spiritual journey for me, but I think also for people that read the book. It was very eye-opening, and the people that I was fortunate enough to meet were just incredible, and I had to actually locate all those people. So I would work through a Presbyterian office. I would work through whatever search I could do. I think it was before Google. So I just remember that I whenever I was home, because I would leave sometimes for 2 months at a time, and I would just spend all my time just like a reporter, just following stories. And I had kind of concepts of how I wanted to organize based on congregational, higher institutions, the attached bodies within the church, and mission. And so that was kind of the idea behind the organization of it. What was very interesting to me, because when you're in when you have a company that does creative projects, which that's what I've done my whole life, you work project to project to project. So in other words, you get done with a project, you're done. And then you go on to the next project. What was so interesting in this was that when it was released, my phone started ringing off the hook. And all of a sudden, I'm being invited to give sermons and talks and discussions all around the United States. So I actually spent probably a good year and a half after the book came out, literally driving around the country. And to pay for it, what I did was I would make a trip, always pass through Louisville on the way out, and I had a little Honda Civic, and I would load it up with some books. But I would load this car, this Honda Civic, with so many books that it was literally dragging down the road.
Wow.
And what I would do is, when somebody would contact me, they'd always say, well, what's your speaking fee? And I always answered it the same way. I just said, whatever you think is right. I'm not going to tell you what I said. And was interesting because I'm going to pull into a park here. I'm actually in Wisconsin now. And I know if I go further down the road, I'm going to lose. So I'm just going to pull up and I'm going to look out at an island in Lake Superior. Anyway, what was interesting was how I was able to, I received enough money in the tours and the sales of the books to actually keep touring for like I said, a good year. And it was really interesting because you toss it back at the church or at the organization or whoever you're talking with that's setting it up. Of course, Presbyterians are used to having everything all kind of laid out. And so when you just say, well, you figure out what you're going to pay me. I'm going to show up anyway, so just give me what you want. And so some would be $100. Sometimes it'd be $200, and sometimes it was $5. And it was interesting because it didn't matter the difference. Enough was always provided. And the books, I would make, I think, about $10 on a copy whenever I sold a copy. So I might sell 10 copies in a church and get rid of 40 pounds from the car.
So that's the first half of my interview with Dirk Waringa, the author of Presbyterians, A Spiritual Journey, published in the year 2000. If you'd like to join us for virtual communion this Sunday, it's World Communion Sunday. And you may want to prepare juice and bread so that you can join us, whether you're a member of First Presbyterian or a Christian watching here on the YouTube. I'll see you next week with a second half of this interview with the author Dirk Waringa. See you then.